Donald Trump's biggest supporters are using a new, disgusting tactic to try to win over voters they're currently losing by tricking them. This weekend, we saw a massive spike in MAGA influencers sharing AI-generated photos of Donald Trump that supposedly show him standing around with a bunch of black Americans. They're all smiling, they're all laughing, but the only problem is these photos are completely fake. They were AI-generated. There's nothing real about them. To make it even worse, his supporters are claiming these photos were taken after Donald Trump's recent Bronx rally, but that is just not the case whatsoever. I can't tell if they've been tricked or if they're intentionally tricking other people, but either way, these AI-generated photos are harmful. Perhaps the most popular example came from popular MAGA Twitter user Alex, who shared a photo of Donald Trump apparently grilling out with a bunch of black voters and captioned it, "CNN will never report on this." I mean, maybe CNN doesn't like to report completely AI generated photos that have no basis in reality at all. But then popular MAGA influencer Benny Johnson, who is like the worst of the worst, he is just a snake oil salesman for Donald Trump, and nothing he says is true. Don't trust this guy. He said, "Here's an important moment at the Bronx rally that the corporate media refused to report on." Maybe they refused to report on it because it's a completely manufactured moment. But there's a few problems with this. You can see palm trees in the background of this photo. There are not palm trees in the Bronx. Benny Johnson has apparently never been to New York or the Bronx. But to make things even worse for Benny Johnson, Twitter's community notes fact-checked him immediately by saying, "This moment did not happen at the Donald Trump rally in the Bronx. In fact, it never happened at all. This is an AI-generated image." This BBC article reads, "Donald Trump supporters have been creating and sharing AI-generated fake images of black voters to encourage African Americans to vote Republican. BBC Panorama discovered dozens of deep fakes portraying black people as supporting the former president. Mr. Trump has openly courted black voters who were key to Joe Biden's election win in 2020, but there's no evidence directly linking these images to Mr. Trump's campaign." I'll continue reading the article, but it's worth pointing out Donald Trump is currently suffering among black voters despite his campaign trying to paint the opposite picture. Donald Trump has been saying he's winning with minority groups, he's winning with even liberals, he claims he's winning with everyone, but that is simply not borne out by any of the available data. A brand new poll from Pew Research reveals that 77% of black registered voters prefer Biden over Trump. However, researchers noted Biden's advantage among this group is not as wide as it was 4 years ago, an indication of a slight erosion of support. The study also revealed that 83% of black registered voters identify with or lean toward the Democratic Party, down from 88 in 2020. So there's a slight 5% shift there, but it's not the end of the world. The shift is evident across gender and age demographics, with younger black voters showing a higher tendency to lean Republican compared to their older counterpart. What I found personally from canvassing and talking to a lot of voters is that the older generations of black Americans are much more likely to be firm Democrats, firm Biden supporters who vote in every election because they remember an era before the Civil Rights Act was passed when black Americans couldn't vote, when black Americans didn't have any rights at all, so they make sure they don't miss a single election. Whereas a lot of the younger voters are more likely to fall to social pressures where they think it's cool to be a MAGA supporter. This is just what I found personally. Trump's ratings among black voters remain overwhelmingly negative. The study found that 72% of black voters rated his presidency as poor or terrible, and 65% believe the twice impeached and 4 times indicted Trump broke the law in his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Despite this, 49% of black voters express a desire to replace both Biden and Trump with different candidates if given the option. But that sentiment isn't unique to black voters. I think a lot of Americans are disillusioned with seeing both of these candidates running again. But back to the fake AI generated photos. Campaigns sharing fake or altered images may become more and more common as we enter this new era of artificial intelligence. It'll become another tool in the kit that campaigns can use to win over voters. voters. And this is really nothing new. I mean, the informational warfare that has been being waged by Russia for decades has become more and more advanced, and now it is basically invisible to the average voter. There are so many cases of fake stories being shared, and then we find out they actually originated from some Russian bot farm. So it is definitely kind of scary to see Americans now using those same tactics and waging informational warfare against their own fellow citizens. The BBC article continues, a creator of one of the images told the BBC, "I'm not claiming it's accurate. The fake images of black Trump supporters generated by artificial intelligence are one of the emerging disinformation trends ahead of the US presidential election in November. Unlike in 2016, when there was evidence of foreign influence campaigns, the AI-generated images found by the BBC appear to have been made and shared by US voters themselves, as I was just saying. One of them was Mark Kaye and his team at a conservative radio show in Florida. So even though a lot of these images haven't been traced directly back to the Trump campaign, people who are very close with Trump or just MAGA sycophants in general have been taking advantage of these tools and sharing these images. They, meaning Mark Kaye and his team, created an image of Mr. Trump smiling with his arms around a group of black women at a party and shared it on Facebook, where Mr. Kaye has more than 1 million followers. At first it looks real, but on closer inspection, everybody's skin is a little too shiny and there are missing fingers on people's hands. Some telltale signs of AI-created images. If you guys didn't know, you can look at an image, and if you don't know if it's AI or not, just look at the people's hands, because the one thing AI really struggles with is accurately depicting people's hands. It'll add extra fingers, it'll blend fingers together, or take fingers away. That's just a little tip I found in this new era of information warfare. I'm not a photojournalist, Mr. K tells me from his radio studio. That's pretty obvious. I'm not out there taking pictures of what's really happening. I'm a storyteller. And by storyteller, he means he posts completely fake images and tries to act like they are real. He had posted an article about black voters supporting Mr. Trump and attached this image to it, giving the impression that these people all support the former president's run for the White House. Again, he's not a storyteller. He sounds like an outright liar. In the comments on Facebook, several users appeared to believe the AI image was real. I'm not claiming it is accurate. I'm not saying, hey, look, Donald Trump was at this party with all these African American voters. Look how much they love him, he said. If anybody's voting one way or another because of one photo they see on a Facebook page, that's a problem with that person, not with the post itself. But this is such a reductive and dishonest way of looking at the situation. So this guy can share an endless amount of disinformation and justify it by saying, oh, it's not my fault if a voter chooses to vote based off of my disinformation that I shared, even though they trust me. It's not just about this one photo, it's about a broader pattern of disinformation that adds up and compounds in our current landscape. So you can imagine somebody sharing one fake story, that fake story spirals out of control and gets picked up by major right-wing outlets, then the average person believes that story is real, and that spirals out of control even further from there when it becomes something people casually talk about. A great example was this story about kitty litter boxes in school bathrooms. One person made a small joke about this. Some right-wing outlet, I think it was Libs of TikTok on Twitter, reported on that. Then it got picked up by Fox News. Now the average Republican thinks that there are kitty litter boxes in bathrooms in liberal school districts, whatever that means, when the original story was completely false. But a lot of people may be voting one way or another because they think liberals now support kitty litter boxes. I've talked to people like this. It is a real problem where people get this one speck of disinformation in their brain and it grows outwards. So that is the problem with sharing AI generated photos. My name is Mockler. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment a blue heart if you made it this far, subscribe, and have a great day.